you mentioned the 3 points. So to have time management skills, to communicate effectively, and to have empathy. So what I was wondering is, you have trained hundreds of people, thousands of people.
Yeah, right? Thousands actually. Yeah.
From all over the world, from executives to even the very high level CEOs and COOs. So, are these 3 skills the skills that you would say that each professional needs to equip themselves with to succeed in the workplace today?
Yes, I think they are, but there is another one. There's other ones as well, of course. I think what you're leading to is how you work with groups, right? How you talk to people, how you relate to people.
What are the skills that you feel are the most important for a young professional or a professional?
Good question. Yeah. Well, first of all, must be 2 years ago, the National University of Singapore invited me to talk to a group of MBA students. They were about to graduate. I think they were in their last 3 or 4 months. And they want me to talk about relationship building and networking. And during the breaks, I was quite surprised. I mean, they're brilliant students, of course, and they're all going to graduate at a high level and so forth. That's indisputable. What was a little bit surprising, however, was what they needed to learn, in other words, the performance gap in networking and relationship building. That ability to go into a room cold and put your hand out and shake someone's hand and to carry on a conversation. We've all gone to networking events which start with our business card and looking at the other person and so forth. And sometimes a conversation stops right there. Business card is only the beginning, by the way, folks. My tip on meeting other people and how to impress them is ask about their kids. That is one of the things that'll always get people to talk. But yes, ask about something. Ask about them. Ask something about them. There are 6 questions that you can ask. They start with who, what, where, when, how, which, and why. That's 7, by the way. If you start a conversation with one of those words, when you're meeting somebody, they'll open up. They'll start answering you. They're called open questions. If you ask a question that requires only a yes or no, that kind of halts conversation, although it's useful, but not as useful as open questions. Don't always go into a conversation with somebody looking for something for yourself. That's what I found with the networking sometimes. People want something for themselves. It's not always the right place and right time to do that. Meeting people for the first time might end there, or it might go on to greater things. I've had situations, I've been fortunate, when I don't go to a lot of networking, but I do meet a lot of people. And by the way, I do a job which requires you to be rather assertive and a good communicator, but I'm rather shy, actually, in the background. So when I go to these events, I have to take a deep breath like everybody else, especially to break into a circle. But I find that I am able to talk about a lot of different subjects. You throw a subject at me, I probably can give you some kind of feedback on it, or I can contribute to it. So another tip for those who are finding it maybe difficult to break into other groups is get to know about the world around you, get to know what's going on. Well, I think there are 3 groups of people, they say. There are one group of people who really don't know what's going on around them. There's a second group of people who have an idea that something's happening, but they're not quite sure what. And there's a third group of people who can tap into the macro environment. They know exactly what's going on around them. Be in the third group if you can. It's probably the most comfortable group to be in. But one other thing I wanted to say about when you're with a group of people, always thank people for their time. Because time is their most valuable asset. And therefore, if you thank them for it, you're showing that you really do appreciate it. And another tip I would say is say their name 3 times. Right? Vincent? If the name is the sweetest sound to somebody's ears, the name. I find this in the Gulf, especially. People, any country really. The only place I find it difficult to remember names is Thailand because they're so long. But they very kindly shorten them for me. It's very charming that they do that for me. But yes, remembering names is a lovely skill, and it will differentiate you from other people. And you know I talk a lot about differentiation and making yourself special in some way.
So the fourth skill, to add on to the three skills that you mentioned of time management, communication, and empathy, is really networking. And
well, yes. I mean, I suppose with that question I asked Dave, he in those days, he could have told me, look, there's a lot of things you can do. Obviously, there are. To him, there were three major things, and that's why I told the story. But of course, for every person, there may be other aspects that you need to improve to get to where you want to be.
All right, Rick. So leadership is fast becoming a very essential skill to have at the workplace. Many of us, at some point of our careers, will be thrust into leadership roles, whether is it by choice or by force. So, what I would just wanted to ask you, what are the biggest challenges that leaders are facing in the modern workplace today?
Good. Well, I think one of them is just by nature of people being able to move to different countries, and Singapore is an example, Australia is an example, that is bringing a diverse workforce together towards a common goal. And that's understanding, again, cultures, understanding how different people work, how different people think. And so that's definitely one. Another one, I think, is the work-life balance, and that is getting the most from your individuals, getting them to exceed their self-imposed limitations and make appropriate contributions to your team and your organization. At the same time, allowing them some time for themselves as well. And so some organizations take that even a bit further in terms of giving them swimming opportunities and gym and tennis and sport and leisure opportunities. Google take it even further, and it becomes a very enjoyable environment in which to perform, including slides and bicycles to go between the different buildings. I think that sounds a really fun place. But I think I'm probably a little bit too old now to fit in there. But anyway, the point about it is I think that's a wish list of most people. But you can still create a nice work environment. Work environments need not be soulless places to spend time. They can be quite enjoyable, and you can do it in your own way. Last part of that question is that every leader has challenges, and I've only mentioned a couple. There are literally hundreds. It really depends on the situation that one is facing. And if you're a leader with financial difficulties in the organization, there's certain things that have to come into play there. If you're a leader who is new to the organization, and let's say you're quite young, and you've got much older workers, you could be facing some opposition there, a little bit of stress. You're going to have to work very hard to win them over. And then you might be a leader who's having trouble with communication within the teams. So there are different problems that require different answers, I think. It's the best way I can put that.